All right, welcome back, Tide fans. This is Tide Talk. Got my two buddies again with me, Maurice Booth, Jimmy Messick, here to talk about the game against Duke. And guys, I'm just going to start out. I'll go with you first, Jimmy. Jimmy, just give me your just overall kind of 30,000-foot view summary of what you thought about game one.
Somewhat what I expected.
Right.
As far as the outcome, score, I figured we would, be in that same ballpark. A little surprised at how we got to it, honestly. I thought we would be able to run the ball a little more effectively. Little surprised that it took us a whole quarter to kind of get going.
If I remember correctly, in the pre-game, in the show we did prior to the first game, that was one of the things you were really thinking, that our offensive line, we were returning big, and we were going to be able to run the football when we wanted to.
Well, what's the saying about drinking the Kool-Aid? I mean, all the stuff I had been reading about the offensive line, I was thinking, man, this is going to be the best one we've ever had, supposedly, or thinking that, and definitely didn't look that way. Not that I'm concerned about it, by no means, but it was definitely surprising how we got pushed around a little bit on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So
played around with a lot of options. Played around with some different mixes of who was going to be where.
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't know that it's time to panic yet.
Oh yeah. I mean, and the funny thing is, here we are talking about a 42-3 victory. Like, how can you be disappointed in that? I mean, is that where we are now as Alabama fans, that we get disappointed when we get beat or when we win 42-3?
That's right.
So,
Maurice,
so it's my turn.
give me your take, bud.
Well, at least we're not Tennessee. I'll say that.
Amen.
So, the thing about it is it's 42-3, but not that I can condone gambling, but it was a cover on the last few minutes, in which we finally ran it in. If you take that run away, we averaged 2.9 yards per carry, which is a little disappointing to say the least. I thought the offensive line looked, I don't say confused, but they didn't look prepared. It wasn't until we were able to connect on a few passes, and for everybody that had said, I really get tired of this as an Alabama fan. It's usually the opposing fans that say, well, it doesn't matter who you put in there, y'all just have next man up. Well, there's a reason there's a depth chart, and I think you saw why there's a depth chart.
Sure.
Nothing against the Ford kid, although the fumble was a little ridiculous, which I'm sure Saban probably mentioned.
He'll take care of that this week.
Yeah, I'm sure that was probably mentioned in film.
Once or twice.
But you saw the difference in what he brought, and even Devontae Smith coming in added that one more lethal weapon, which it really is, at wide receiver, opens it up. I thought outside of that, I thought everything was okay, expected. Congratulations to the two freshman linebackers. I thought they played extremely well. I would like to take the neck braces off of our DBs because they seem to can't turn their heads whenever the ball's in the air.
Hey, the one time we did, what happened?
We picked it off.
We picked it.
And then we got a 15-yard penalty. Thanks, Nick. So outside of that, it was kind of predictable.
Well, let me ask this question. And
a heck of a game by David Cutcliffe, I thought, that he called.
Both of you, I'll give both of you a chance to answer. Do you think that the inconsistency offensively, do you think that was more to do with us, or it had a lot to do with Duke? And I'll let you answer that first, Jimmy.
I think in any case or in any game, I think it's a combination. Again, we can only watch film based on what Duke was doing last year on defense, right, to prepare for the game. So they had to have some wrinkles in there that we had not seen. So you got to give, again, Cutcliffe a shout out for the game plan he had. But then from our side of it, just, again, the execution to me wasn't there. Again, whether it's just all the people running in and off or on and off the field as far as the offensive line.
Trying to find that right combination.
Right. Because really, mine is just across the line of scrimmage. Again, pretty much top grade for most positions, we would think, right? Or we would say as far as offensive goes. So I think it's a little bit of both. I don't really say, I don't ever think there's any like jitters as far as that goes. I don't believe in that. I don't think, not at this point, not at this level. Not that there's not that nervous energy you get, but I don't think the execution was from being jittery or that kind of thing. You know what I'm
Maurice?
saying?
I thought it was a good game plan coming in from Cutcliffe's defensive staff. I think they threw some stunts at us that, for some reason, caught us off guard. And I don't say jitters, but just hype, maybe. You know, you're so ready. You've been in camp for about 3 weeks, and you're national television, and you're ready to get the game started.
You're playing against somebody that you don't know
Right.
across from you. It's not, you know.
And I mean, I'm not, and I'm sure when I can hear the eye rolls when I say this. Duke is not, you know, New Mexico State. I mean, Duke has won or been in the ACC championship a few times in the past 4 years. So Cutcliffe is, to me, a really good coach that does a lot with what he has and recruits fairly well for what he can. So they had some players, and I thought they played pretty well. I thought our offensive line was, I don't want to say confused, but it just wasn't gelling. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think
And-
that's a good way
so-
to describe it.
Yeah, and we'll see. And I'm sure Alabama's coaching staff was trying to see which combinations work best in game time situations, and reason for a lot of the shuffling. And he's a firm believer that, you know, rotate within the offensive line for your substitution before you just bring in the second team center if you got a guard that plays it. So he does a lot of shuffling. He wants to, kind of like what they do in the NFL.
Here's my take on that question, if I can add.
Please, go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure show.
I think that it was a plan by Duke that exposed the not gelling of an offensive line who we're still trying to put that puzzle together.
Right.
You know, when you think about it, you know, having a new center who is the guy that calls the blocking schemes,
Right.
picks up the blitz packages, is making those calls. This guy's new,
Yeah.
you know, and he's on national television, and it's really his first time against someone else, and the, you know, all of those things come into play, and so you could tell with the number of different combinations that we were using on the offensive line that they're still not a cohesive unit that we will probably see over the course of the next few weeks,
Right.
which I think will impact the running game, the passing game, etc. But also I believe that Duke did a pretty good job, as you mentioned, Maurice. You know, they ran some blitz packages that we had not seen for whatever reason.
Right.
We had not seen, and kind of caught us on our heels a few times. I know I watched a couple of replays where even experienced guys that were returning from last year, you know, was picking up a guy that he's supposed to just brush off and let go, and here comes the linebacker.
Right.
You know, so
A lot of missed assignments,
Yeah.
I thought, early on.
I think
To
it
your
was.
point too, it could have been again how it's called across the line of scrimmage. So to your point about the new.
Yeah, I mean, so all of those things I think had an impact on the overall output of the offense, especially from a running perspective. We can sit here and talk, you know, and you're right, Jimmy. We won 42-3. We can sit here and break that down all day long. It sounds, you know, it's like what Saban says all the time. There's something to learn,
Yeah.
even from a win like that. That we didn't do everything really well, and there's something to learn. And that's kind of what we're going to get into. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk about, you know, the play of the other offensive guys. Like you said, I mean, if you were to grade the offensive line, a C maybe. C minus.
See.
But the other guys now stepped up and played pretty well. So let's take a short break, Tide fans, on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. So hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
In life, some things just go together, like a burger and fries, and home and auto insurance from State Farm. So make it a combo. Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? Just call me, Bob English, or any of my experienced hometown team and find out how you could start saving today. It's just another way.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans.
Don't forget Bob English.
I'm not,
talk about
I'm
Bob
not going to
English
forget
first,
it. Bob, we won't forget you, buddy.
Hey, Bob.
So, we were talking that last segment, we were just talking about the offensive line and kind of how that played out. And if we were to give them a grade, C, C minus at tops. But then when you go into the offense as a whole, fortunately for us, we were able to throw the football fairly well. I think the numbers for Tua ended up, 26 of 31 for 336 yards and 4 touchdowns in 3 quarters of play. What do you guys assess from, I know we talked a little bit about it at the break about some miscommunication and with a returning guy. That's a little concerning for me, especially at this point and the hype that Tua's a Heisman front runner and Judy's maybe the only, the last repeating Biletnikoff winner in, X number of years.
It's been done twice.
Yeah, it's only been done. Yeah, so a little concerning for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning, but let's pump the brakes because this time last year we're sitting here saying the same thing about our offense, and then we faced Clemson. And then what happened?
Yeah.
It is extremely lethal. It is, each one of those guys in a skill position will be playing on Sundays.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Plus a guy throwing it. So it's almost they can't win type of situation because you expect them to
be
do
perfect.
that.
Yeah, almost be perfect.
Exactly. And it's almost, I call it the Peyton Manning effect. You're so good that they're like, well, you don't deserve the Heisman. Well, you set the standard. These guys have set the standard at these skill positions for Alabama that will be hard to match, and then they go out and they play like this, and you go, well, how'd they do? Well, they lived up to their hype.
Right.
It was phenomenal. But, what else can they do to prove themselves because of what happened last January? One thing is eliminate miscommunication and mistakes like that. You never know when that's going to be a 3rd or 4th down in a crucial game, that communication.
Where you have to have that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't just.
That's a good point.
You can't just let it, kind of like your brother said last year, field goal kicking is going to come back to haunt us. And all the play calling that Saban did in the championship game was trying to avoid kicking it. So if it's going to fester if there's not a correction to whatever it is that they read, what Judy read and what Tua read, and any other receiver or running back. Now the running backs, I expected more.
Right.
I understand that we talked about the line. I give them a B minus, C plus.
Yeah, it's still Alabama.
Right.
The expectation is, we talked about it at the first show, is to run the football.
Yeah, I'm like you. The expectations from the quarterback and receivers, again, how much higher can they get as far as the bar? You can't go any higher. So I honestly didn't even think about the one play there was some miscommunication. I just boiled off a duck's back kind of thing. I don't really see it's going to be a problem, But yeah, it's like what else can we expect from them? It's almost perfect, but really though it was like that for the most part last year until the injury, and then of course we did start playing defense. It was a little bit different. They'd seen a bunch of film on us, kind of thing. So I don't know. That's still 3-4 months down the road, but I'm going to be curious to see how this season plays out and how we can execute that same offense when we're playing a little bit better competition. But
yeah, and of course, isn't that the expectation when you're a player and you go to Alabama? Is the bar is set. What do I got to do to get above that? That's the expectation.
I don't think it's getting above it, but it's kind of like Saban always says to fully play to play to your full potential without mistakes in crucial times. Now, to your point about better competition, no disrespect to Duke, but when we face A&M, LSU, Auburn, they're going to come out. Word on the street. You blitz Tua, come at us with different packages.
Give him pressure. Mm-hmm.
He's going to make a mistake. Well, we showed the other day that our offensive line can get confused in certain blitz packages. Mm-hmm. So what happens when you have little bit better defensive tackle and defensive end coming at you, or linebacker coming off of a blitz that's going to cause miscommunication. Who am I throwing it to? I mean, that's exactly what Clemson did, and I hate to keep going back to it. So, and the reason I say that is I don't want them to go, well, we did what we were supposed to. We're that good. Well, did you do it that good because you didn't make any mistakes, or do you feel like you really played your absolute best?
Right.
Because everybody has a weakness, and in any game you have a bad play. Why did I make a bad play?
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Was I tired? Was I confused? What? Did I loaf? Did I take a play off?
Right.
What was it? So,
Well, we could sit here and talk about the offense as we have done the whole time. I mean, we know that the expectation, and we knew coming in, we're going to score a bunch of points. You know, hopefully our defense is going to get to where we have seen our defenses in the past. So let's move over to the defense. Talk about the play of two freshman linebackers in very critical spots.
yeah.
As advertised. I mean, obviously, you go back and look at film. Yeah, they missed a couple of, got confused on a couple of things, but, man, they were all over the place.
I didn't think they got enough credit. I thought, and I'm not sitting here just tooting the Bama horn. I thought for two freshmen that come in, and for one of them to call the defense, I thought they played very well.
Exactly.
I mean, I didn't think it was Dante Hightower, Rolando McClain, third year level, but they played extremely well in that type of situation. I mean, they're going to be tested again, but I thought they played extremely well, and I was happy with the defensive line.
How important was it for those guys, for the two inside linebackers, for Shane Lee and for Christian Harris? How important was it for them to have Jennings and Lewis? And
I thought it was, if they didn't have them, and you could see a couple of times where Lewis was talking to them to either reassure them or tell them whatever that needs to take place. I mean, that type of comfort zone helps.
and then to continue with that thought process, how important was it for them to have the guys in the back, doing Diggs and
Right.
Job and Maiden and
Well,
McKinney?
I mean, they're obviously surrounded by a bunch of talent. We all know that and agree to that. But also, again, not taking anything away from them. But when you're not having to shed a block to go make a tackle and you can just read and react, I mean, those guys up front were taking up all the blocks. You got the pressure from the outside, so they could just sit there and go, okay, let me go make this tackle. Okay, let me go here and make this tackle. So, I mean, obviously, again, it's never easy to be thrown in that that situation or position. But what they have around them is going to make it easier for them.
I'm really interested to see really the defense progress because I really like those two guys. I mean, when you talk about just all-out ability, let's get away from making the right call, getting people in the right position. I'm talking about running to the ball, making tackles, going sideline to sideline. I'm going to tell you what, for freshmen, those two guys.
And that's kind of what Nick had said, and I can call him Nick because he doesn't know me. But that's what he had alluded to in the weeks leading up to is like, they may not be up on all the defensive calls just yet.
The schemes.
But they get to the ball. Just as long as you're around the ball, something good can happen. And they have a way, they had a knack the other day to show that they can get to the ball.
I'm going to tell you, and Jimmy, hang on, just with that, hold that thought, don't forget it. But Shane Lee, 35, remind me of the guy that used to wear 35, and I'm going to test your memory of who that linebacker was, D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
He reminded his stature, stocky.
He looked a little thicker than D.
Looked a little thicker.
He looked like a freight train is what it reminded me of.
Moved really well, was in the right spots a lot of times, and when he hit you,
Yeah.
you knew it.
He looked like he belonged out there. Like this was nothing new to him. He didn't seem
Didn't look
intimidated.
like he skipped a beat to me.
Right. He seemed completely comfortable.
There ain't no
out there.
doubt.
All right, go back to your thought. I've interrupted.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, just as a defense as a whole, I mean, do you remember any missed tackles? We were tackling as good as I've seen us. I mean, we were going after. We were attacking the football, attacking the the run or the ball carrier, whatever, And dude, we're making tackles. I mean, I don't remember missing or not making tackles when we got to the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and that's
The
gonna
one
be
thing
huge
I've
too.
always been impressed with is our secondary is the fact that they can make great open field tackles. And to your point, now that I think, I didn't see really any. It was just, I thought they played pretty well for first time out, especially with two true freshman linebackers. Exceptional.
All right, well, we're going to take another break real quick on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. We'll come back and wrap up the third segment with more about that game and then the upcoming game with New Mexico State. So hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Enjoy the good times a little more with the right plan. As your State Farm agent, I am here to help you protect your dreams and loved ones with life insurance. With over 60 years combined State Farm experience, call me or any of my team to find out which options are best for you. Another way, we're here to help life go right.
All right, Tide fans, welcome back. So we're going to finish this last segment talking about, we were wrapping up with the defense, just about how well they played. I'll tell you, I'm really excited to see that our defensive backfield played with a lot of confidence, didn't appear to be confused a lot, seemed to really know what was going on. I like Shyheim Carter moving folks around and getting people in position. I read a lot of stuff about him earlier, that he was extremely knowledgeable of the defense and getting guys in place. I think that helps with the two young linebackers. But it's good to see. You mentioned earlier about our guys, running and not turning and finding the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Sheriff Taylor is going to complain about that. He sends me a text every time. Why don't we ever turn and find the ball? Why don't we ever turn and find the ball? And in some cases, I get it. I've given a philosophy.
It's how
behind
it's
why
taught.
they do that. Behind why they do that.
All right, share.
Because it takes a perfect pass. It takes a perfect pass and a catch when they're in your face the whole time. And we take our chances. How many times have we been beat in the past 2 years?
Okay.
Once. And it is generally by a quarterback who has played an above par football game. If you go back with our losses, I can tell you those
Well, that's fine. Can I share mine?
sure.
All right. As a former DB that didn't play, so I got to watch a lot in practice. You run to the receiver. You get there, his head goes back, your head goes back. If you're not, in today's day and age, it's equivalent to something that you can really relate to. If you drive the lane, you're going to get the foul. If you throw it deep and you're looking ahead and you're not looking for the ball, good chance that they're going to call pass interference.
Right.
So just turn your head. If his hands go up, you're 35 yards downfield. There's not too many other moves he's going to make on you. Mm-hmm. Look back. Look up. Get a hand up and just look back. They won't call it. But if you're like that and just running with him, put your hand up. And if you happen to touch him, which they're always touching, they're going to call you. That's why I get so frustrated. Turn your head.
Yeah.
Just turn it.
Well, I think sometimes too, and again, and I could be wrong on this, but they're taught to kind of read that receiver. Hands going up, you can almost like see his eyeballs get bigger, that kind of deal. And I think a lot of times we're just not reacting fast enough to that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because we're turning our heads on a lot of occasions, just a second too late or a split second too late. Now, granted, there's our times we're not, and we're grabbing and holding and getting called penalties on us, but then some passes just can't be defended anyway. I mean, the first one against Diggs was just, he was you couldn't even see the receiver. All you saw was Diggs, and somehow the ball went under his arm or by his earlobe and right into the guys. So some things you just can't help. But I think a lot of times, though, they're just not reacting to that receiver just quick enough. Now, how you fix that, I have no idea.
I think everybody has an opinion. And I think there are obviously numerous different techniques. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to stay with this, and it may not be right, but this is just my thought. If you go back and look at the number of times that Alabama's lost over the past several years, it's been by a quarterback that has played exceptionally well. Not just good, exceptionally well. But I'm going to tell you, if you go back and watch those games, we get beat occasionally on that situation where the DB's running with him and he hasn't turned his head yet. But think about the number of times that you're out there on an island with a guy that runs a 4.3 40 and he knows where he's going. You don't know where he's going, and you're busting your rear end to get in his face, to get close enough to him to cause a disruption in the play. So I hear you, and I think ideally you find the receiver, you get your hand on him, and you turn and find the ball.
Right.
I think that there are techniques when you don't get there soon enough, or that when you're running with him and you just make a play on the ball without being able to turn your head.
Well, the only time, you always, if the receiver's got you, you run as fast as you can to the receiver, even if you run through him. And second of all, if you are beat, you tackle him.
Sure, you get the flag.
Yeah. But to be with them, running with them, his hands go up, your head goes back.
Right.
I mean, you run to the receiver till you get there, then you look back. I mean, I understand. And if it is one-on-one coverage and you don't have free safety help, I get that. But don't be booing or don't be upset that you're going to get the PI.
Right.
So it's going to happen.
Right. And listen, as I said, it was really good to see that the DBs played with a lot. It seemed to me like they played with a ton of confidence.
A lot more confidence.
A ton of confidence, which sends the message up front that, hey, we got this back here, pin yours back and go get them. Without doing a lot of blitzes, we didn't blitz a lot. We did a few things. We didn't do anything special. We didn't really show a whole lot. We just lined up and played.
Right.
What do you think about it? I mean, we're sitting here talking about the DBs, but during the game, there really wasn't a whole lot of talk about them, really, and that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
When you're not talking about them, that's a good thing.
Right.
So, I mean, they were obviously doing their job. I mean, they played lights out. Again, it's one of those kind of picky. We're just kind of nitpicking things here, I guess.
Yeah. So I said that to say it was good to see that the DBs played with a level of confidence that I think is important and will be important throughout the stretch, especially in an SEC, in the conference that we play in. I think that's going to be extremely important.
Well, I think there was a lot more understanding and being comfortable with the coverages.
That's correct.
If you remember after last year's Louisville game, Saban said, we don't have a defense where it lets a man run 35 yards by himself. And that was a blown coverage. Didn't see that the other day. Everybody seemed to be on the same page. So that year of experience with basically everybody with the exception of Savion Smith coming back, I think is really paying off.
Played a critical part. I mean, it's going to play a huge role. So, the defense I was really I'm interested. I was impressed with. I'm interested to see how they continue to get better. It's going to be important as we grow into the season because we're not going to play Duke and New Mexico State. We're going to, week 3, we get into an SEC game with South Carolina. And although I think South Carolina is going to struggle a little bit because Jake Bentley's out and, they lost to North Carolina.
And Will Muschamp still recovering.
Exactly. I wasn't going to say that, but thank you, Maurice.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But we're going to get into the Texas A&Ms and the LSUs and the Auburns, and hopefully we're going to be in the SEC championship game probably against Georgia. I know that's putting that out there months down the road. But,
probably they already ordered their rings after this past weekend.
Yeah.
But we're going to face guys that throw the football better, that have 5-star athletes out there. And so I'm interested to see how our defense progresses as we go through the year to get ready for the tough conference. So let's talk real quick about New Mexico State.
Done.
Yeah, what's there to talk about?
Okay.
I will say this. Kudos to our kicker, the freshman. I mean, he was able, name another kicker that can hit both uprights. That's accuracy.
Back-to-back kicks.
So
If you
let's
have
talk
the
about,
over-under on 2,
so let's talk
you
about
got it.
kicking real quick, and we'll be brief.
I guess because we're done with New Mexico State, right?
Yeah, New Mexico State.
Well,
I mean, it's
what'd you say that we're ranked
125th defensively with respect to stopping the run.
And something
Well,
like that.
there's
on
only
Out of
100
130.
And something like that on offense too. So yeah. So what's there to talk about?
Yeah.
When will Matt Wilson and Little Tua come in?
So the over and under on how long Tua will play.
7 minutes?
He'll play till halftime.
Wow, you give him to halftime.
I'm giving to halftime.
I give him a quarter.
But just for the purpose of my brother who's having a fit about the kicking game, I will say that it was a little bit more.
It's your brother's birthday, too.
Yeah, happy birthday, brother, by the way.
Now that I'm stalking
Thank you
you.
for reminding me.
I miss you.
But look, from 48 and 49, I think they were good from 55, 56, 57. I mean, plenty of leg.
Yeah.
And as you said, we joke about that. But, I mean, we're 6 inches from having 2, 6 inches either way from having 2
50-yard
long field
field goals,
goals.
Right. I mean, he had leg behind it.
Well,
So
they
give
wasn't
him-
shanks. They wasn't knuckleballs. They
Exactly.
didn't get
Yeah,
to the
they
goalpost.
weren't just off the foot. You knew I mean, it was to the last second. So
Right.
I have a little bit of confidence that our kicking game is going to. Now, I'll tell you, from a kickoff perspective, what a great weapon to not
Right.
have any returns.
Right.
I mean, that's.
And that's, I think either he mentioned it or I can't remember where I read it, but the fact that he was, Coach Saban was very pleased with the distance of the kickoffs.
Yeah.
It takes a tremendous amount of stress off your kickoff team.
Sure.
And as far as injuries and so forth. But, I mean, that's just such when you know, I call it the Janikowski effect, when you know it's going into the end zone, you can go ahead and start planning ahead as far as what your defense is.
And when you
So-
can limit the number of opportunities that a playmaker has to get a
Right.
big run, I mean, man, that's big. I mean, I think that's really big and plays a big part in, like you said, defense can go ahead and kind of get prepared. They know what they're coming with. So that was good to see. I'm also anxious to see us make some field goals as we. I know my brother is too.
It would be nice.
We'll make some this year.
Well, guys, I appreciate you being here. I think it'll be another fairly easy win this weekend. Nothing against New Mexico State, but
no injuries.
I think it'd be nice to stay healthy, and we'll see how we fare against them, and then get prepared for our first SEC road game with South Carolina. So, guys, again, thank you for being here. And Tide fans, we'll be back next week at this same time on this same channel, getting ready to wrap up another episode of Tide Talk. So, see you next week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.